Hello, Ryan here, aka Mac, and welcome. We have the most recent roadmap update, and it is a great update without any pushbacks. As always, a huge thank you to all of my patrons and channel members, in particular to my latest channel member, Ulf Grimmer. Thank you so much for the support, it is truly appreciated. So it is all good news with this roadmap update, no pushbacks. There are some new additions and updates, so let us get to it. Also, CIG has created a roadmap companion guide for both the progress tracker and release viewer, which is intended to be an evergreen page that they will link to on every roadmap update as a reference, and it is intended to be updated and improved as and when needed. And if there is anything that you would personally like to see on the guide, they have a Roundup Spectrum thread where you can leave a request. Anyway, I will link that in the description below if you have anything you would like to tell them, but let us get to the changes. So firstly, for the release view, Salvage, don't worry, it is a good change. They have updated the Salvage card name to more closely reflect what the Tier 0 implementation will involve. And as of today, it is still slated for Alpha 3.18. Now, the previous card I think was Salvage Tier 0 Tech. Now it reads Salvage Tier 0 Hull Stripping, and the description reads, the first implementation of Salvage into the PU will include both hull stripping as well as repair. This will include both performing hull stripping and repairs by hand, as well as hull stripping using the systems on board the Drake Vulture. So firstly, it is a great sign that this card getting its updated description and title means it's likely it won't slip, and they are hopefully still on schedule for June, but also to get a little more clarity on what is coming with Tier 0 Salvage, and hearing that firstly Tier 0 Repair is coming at the same time is excellent news. So it's not just that one salvage mechanic, it is another new mechanic being Repair, but also the fact that it is now including the ship salvage. So I'm glad that this card now does reflect their intentions so that people reading this card will get a better understanding of what's to come. So yeah, great to get a little bit more confirmation on this feature and what is expected to come. Now for 3.17, so the next patch coming around the end of March, the following cards have passed their final review and are now committed into the build. We have mining gadgets, ship-to-ship refueling, selling items back to shops, Lorville's Hospital, coffee shop vendor, and the DNA head texture update. So committed means around 90% certainty that the features will arrive in that update, if there are no unforeseen issues of course, and that means that all that is left to be committed is the RSI Scorpius and MISC Hull A, which I know both are making great progress. There is obviously a potential that either of them could be a 3.17.1 or even pushed back, but from what I can see, I wouldn't expect this. Now there is also a new deliverable added to Alpha 3.17 which is already committed, and this is Space Station Clinics Variations, which are additional modules to add variety to existing space clinics and additional layouts so every space station in Stanton will be unique. So not the most exciting of updates, and they do already feel somewhat different, like I can kind of identify where I am at times, but a little bit more variation to the medical clinics to make them more unique will be a nice touch, I'm sure. So moving on to the progress tracker, there are 11 new deliverables added, 2 of which are vehicles that I will get to soon. I think many will be excited to see these included. And the first addition to the progress tracker is called Zone Handling, and this is implementing back-end solutions to help designers easily define which zone an object should spawn in to be merged into all existing tools and workflows, with an initial focus on cinematic tools. Now this deliverable has 5 weeks work, which appears to have come to an end in early February from the editor team, and this is both Squadron 42 and PU specific. Next we have Entity Properties plugin, which is to improve entity property handling to easily adjust properties for multiple entities at the same time, decreasing iteration time for designers, and this is a major upgrade to the old way of handling the entity properties, which was pretty limiting and had to extend. Now this deliverable has 11 weeks work, also with the editor team. That should come to a close mid-March, again for both Squadron and the PU. Not entirely certain what either of these will do, but any tool that helps to speed up the production of Star Citizen or make it easier is a welcome addition. So this next deliverable is called Distortion Propagation, which is further work on the distortion damage type to allow correct propagation into systems, so making the location of impact much more important as the powered items closer to the impact will begin to suffer more severely. Now they say this will fulfill the original vision that they had for distortion weapons and for any new weapons they have planned for the future. Now this has 8 weeks work, which unfortunately doesn't begin until early November, ending late December, so not for a long while yet, but it is nice to see this work scheduled in. Distortion weapons will have that unique property of damaging the components inside the ship rather than damaging the exterior and penetrating the hull and so on. So it will be great to see how this comes along and what use cases we can find for them. Right, so this next one is a really interesting new addition that I wasn't expecting. It is Physics Rope Simulation and is extending the simulation algorithm of ropes to support ropes interacting with pulleys and improve general stability to enable the development of new gameplay mechanics. Now we will talk more about this in a second, but the work on ropes from the physics team begun back at the end of September last year and finished early December last year. And if I recall correctly, there was something mentioned about ropes on the progress tracker that I just assumed was relating to something about the engine and about the physics engine, and it was just technical jargon. And I did see a couple of comments from people on that video suggesting that it's more to do with actual ropes, and it turns out you were right, so well done there. Now, what I find very interesting about the rope simulation is how CIG did relatively recently say that their current climbing system in-game is definitely not scalable or how they want it to be. So hearing about ropes and knowing CIG, it does sound like they are trying to find a much more realistic method for climbing, which I am very, very happy about. And if you remember that clip from the Karak commercial, well, it could be us one day, actually rappelling into a cave or scaling a rock face using ropes. Also, as it refers to pulleys, I'm not sure where this is going to be used. I do wonder if it'll be something we will see in areas of the verse that maybe don't have access to machinery and cranes and tractor beams and have to rely on traditional rope methods in some form. I don't know. It is for both the PU and Squadron 42, just to put that out there. But I'm sure CIG can come up with lots of rope-orientated gameplay for the future. So a great new addition, which hopefully we will see in game as soon as possible, as the work from the physics team is done. So the next deliverable is called Underground Facilities, and this involves adding new underground facilities to the game, traversable areas offering gameplay opportunities in corporate industrial environments. So this has 26 weeks work from the location concept art team, which already kicked off at the beginning of January, but isn't expected to complete until right at the end of June. Now, my first thought here was potentially for the locations found at the bottom of the elevators that we were told about for maybe Orison's new office locations. However, these are not underground, so we will see. What I do think would be cool is having to maybe abseil down an elevator shaft using a rope one day. Still got ropes on the brain. But anyway, new underground facilities, more corporate style to them rather than maybe the ones that we have now, will be a nice addition, something different to explore. Next, we have Satellites, Points of Interest, which says populating the game universe with explorable satellite locations that serve as points of interest for the players. Now, these are also from the location concept art team with 40 weeks work, kicking off in late March until late December. So a long way to go for them before we see them, but it'll be interesting to see them come to life on shows like Inside Star Citizen, and hopefully a great new addition as a point of interest for players to find themselves at. Next, we have Lorville Cityscape, which is reworking the Lorville skyline to better fit the scale of the city and its distinctive buildings. This has 26 weeks work, also again with the location concept art team that begun at the beginning of January and is expected to complete around the end of June. It'll be interesting to see what they do here. Sounds like they're going to give it a bit of a facelift. I am still waiting to see the shanty towns outside of Lorville's walls kind of expand and get its residents. Now we have the navigation mesh. It would be cool to see people living around outside the walls of Lorville, maybe even mission givers. But I would love to own one of those shacks. And I've digressed again. Now, the next feature is going to be great fun, especially for trolling your org mates. It is room depressurization, and it is creating the ability for players to increase or decrease the atmospheric pressure in a defined or closed room. Now, unfortunately, this work doesn't kick off until early July and is expected to last 25 weeks, so coming to a finish around late December. But this is going to be a lot of fun, probably expanding on the live support system as well, and just creating so much more gameplay when it comes to managing your ship systems, ship maintenance, and even things like ship boarding activities. So when someone boards your ship, you can depressurize the room and make it difficult for them. And I'm using ships as an example here. It will be any location where the room can be depressurized, like space stations, for example. So a great feature that will be a lot of fun to watch come to fruition. So the next feature is called Cave Archetypes, which I think is being revealed to us now purely because the Planet Content team on Star Citizen Live accidentally leaked that they were working on this, as this was their unannounced content, and this is basically expanding the experience of traversing caves by creating more variety and developing new challenges. Also, the setup of the caves will make them more efficient for use in the creation of future caves. So as we heard on Star Citizen Live, they have plans for many new cave types like ice caves, caves with flora inside, and many, many more. But also improving the setup to make them easier to make for the future will be great. Now, the downside is the work on this won't be done until late December, but the work actually began way back at the end of March last year. So a huge undertaking of 91 weeks that is shaping up to be a far more significant change than I had initially thought. So we have 2 new vehicles added to the progress tracker, both of which are pretty cool. The first one is the Tumbril Ranger bikes, which is the 2-wheeled bikes that will be fun to ride, I'm sure. So this has 34 weeks work from the US vehicle team and vehicle experience team that is scheduled to kick off around the beginning of March until late December. Very excited to see how the Rangers can compete with Gravlev vehicles and what the strengths and weaknesses will be, so it'll be nice when we see that come along. Now, the second vehicle is the RSI Apollo, which will be a very welcome addition, especially now with the medical updates, and hopefully it will bring with it a new round of medical updates. But this should be both the medevac and triage variants, and of course I will cover these ships more in detail in my Ships of the Roadmap series, so do keep an eye out on that for those. But the work on the Apollo has 22 weeks work that will begin right at the end of July and come to a close towards the end of December. So quite the update to the roadmap, and great to have a more positive update as well, without any features being pushed and only new features coming in, and a lot of 3.17 getting committed. Very happy to see that pretty much everything I was excited for in 3.17, excluding the ships of course, because they still need to get committed, but seeing that 3.17 is going to be an excellent patch for me personally. But it does feel like CIG are really pushing the points of interest to try and populate the verse as much as possible, and with a lot more interesting gameplay systems finally getting attention and coming along, it's going to be an exciting time going forwards. Anyway, with that said, I am sure we'll be discussing these changes over at twitch.tv/SuperMacBrother, so be sure to come and say hello and join in if you would like. You are all more than welcome. The link to that is in the description below. If you do enjoy my content, please do consider subscribing and helping the channel to grow. It is very much appreciated. Hit the thumbs up if you don't mind, it does the channel a big favour, and tick that notification bell if you would like to be notified when my videos go live. Again, huge thank you to my patrons and channel members. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.